These are the new metal releases for September 6th. I'm going to talk about two singles, one of which will be the new Linkin Park single because that's what everyone is talking about. I also have six new albums to talk about, which will be a mix of hard rock, black metal, progressive metal, melodic death metal, and doom metal. So let's get into this. I know you're waiting. Let me start with a big one, and this is Linkin Park, the new single, The Emptiness Machine. And by now, you all know the first release since the death of Chester Bennington in 2017. They're also introducing the new vocalist, Emily Armstrong. The single is the lead single from their forthcoming album, From Zero, which will be released on November 15th, 2024. And you can expect a full review when that comes out. So basically, the song is about struggling, challenges, and finding your identity. First time I listened to the song, I was watching a music video, and at first I'm thinking, who is this person singing? Because I'm expecting a female voice, but it's actually Mike Shinoda. And I didn't know he sang. Maybe he did on other albums, but I never paid attention to it. I thought he was just a rapper. I like the first part. Then I'm thinking of when is Emily coming in, and she comes in around the second verse. So overall, I enjoyed it. I think it's not as heavy as the stuff from Hybrid Theory, but also not as poppy as the last album with Chester Bennington. I'm looking forward to this new album. I enjoyed the single a lot. And if the rest of the album sounds like this, I think I'll be happy. I think it will be a decent album. I don't think it will reach the heights of Hybrid Theory or Meteora, but I don't think anybody is expecting that anyway. So that's my thoughts on the first single. Next, I want to talk about the new single by Opeth called S3, or I now see it listed as Paragraph 3. So I guess that's what these songs are going to be called. This is the second single from their upcoming album, The Last Will and Testament. And the album is coming out on October 11th, 2024. You can also expect a full review of that one. So I won't go into the full concept of the album. I talked about that in the previous video. You can refer to my channel for that. I think with a single, it's leaning a little bit more towards their later period sound. I'm talking about the period without the death growls. I thought the song had a sound similar to their previous album, In Cauda Venenum. I still like the song despite the lack of the death growls. I'm not one of those Opeth fans that needs the death growls. I like them, but I can live without them. I think the song has a dark sound. It's haunting. It has lots of progressive rock elements. There are different layers of sounds. The guitars are not very heavy. The vocals are all clean singing throughout the song, but there's a nice orchestration, lots of nice sounds in the background. I like that a lot. This is another album that I'm looking forward to, so I'm going to be doing a full review of it. I've been waiting a long time for them to release another album because they are one of my favorite bands. So that is what I think of the single. Now for the first album review, and that's from the band Dead Daisies. The new album is called Light 'Em Up. This is their seventh album. If you don't know this band, it's one of those groups that has a revolving lineup, and it's mostly the lead singer. So for example, the first self-titled album from 2013 had John Stevens as lead vocalist, and the next three albums had John Corabi as lead vocalist, and then the next two albums after that had Glenn Hughes on vocals. But now John Corabi is back for Light 'Em Up. And I think a lot of people are happy with this because they feel John Corabi may have been the best vocalist of this group. It's basically a hard rock album with lots of classic rock elements. So let's talk more about that. The album starts with a title track. It sounds a lot like AC/DC. I would say more reminiscent of AC/DC from the 70s. You can hear that specific sound in the guitar riffs as well as the guitar solos. And then the next song, Times Are Changing, is a hard rocker with more modern sounds, which has John Corabi singing the verses with the main guitar riff. Next song is called I Want to Be Your Bitch. This one sounded like glam rock of the 70s with a little bit of AC/DC mixed in. And after that is a song called I'm Going to Ride. This one sounds a lot like AC/DC, but more from their early 80s period. I would say sounds like something that could have been on either Back in Black or For Those About to Rock. I can definitely imagine Brian Johnson singing the song. But by the time we get to track 5, they changed it up a little bit with a song called Back to Zero, and they used some different guitar effects. I feel this one has more of a Black Sabbath type of sound. I think the guitar riffs were a little heavier. So I think that song stands out on the album. The next song is called Way Back Home. And this one reminds me of the hard rock of the 70s, something along the lines of the band Kiss or that type of music. It had those big guitar riffs and arena rock choruses. Next song, Take a Long Line. It's pretty cool because it has a hard driving bass line with some stop start guitar riffs. And I think the song has a lot of attitude, has a lot of energy, and a very melodic chorus. Now, there are still three songs left on the album, and the next one is called My Way to Highway. And I still thought this one was more of an energetic song with lots of big guitar riffs. There were two more songs left in the album, and they finally come to a ballad called Love That'll Never Be. It's a southern rock ballad. I guess a good way to describe it as sounds similar to bands like Lynyrd Skynyrd or the Allman Brothers. It's not a bad song if you like that style of music. And the last song is called Take My Soul. It's a blues rocker with lots of slide guitar, reminding me a little bit of Led Zeppelin. Not too bad. I would also compare it to those other blues rock and metal bands from the late 80s, like Badlands or Blue Murder, something along those lines. So that was a good song. So overall, it's a good album. I think it's better than the last two with Glenn Hughes. No offense to Glenn Hughes. But I think John Corabi is probably a better match for this band. My score is an 8 out of 10. Again, that's my opinion. If you like classic rock, it's the perfect album, or anyone who just likes that. The next album I have is by the band God Dethroned, and the album is called The Judas Paradox. It was released on September 6th, 2024 through Reigning Phoenix Music. This is the band's 12th full-length album. One of those bands that has a lot of anti-Christian themes, but they do it using a lot of historical and biblical narratives. That kind of reminded me of the band Riding Christ a little bit. But also keep in mind, this is my first time listening to this band. The music is, I don't know if I should call it black metal, more like blackened melodic death metal or something like that. You got heavy riffs, lots of solos. The music can be both aggressive and melodic. Now, I've never listened to their other albums, but I've read a few reviews saying it's better than their previous album, which was called Illuminati. So let's talk more about this. The album opens with the title track, and so far it sounds like melodic death metal, but with vocals more in the black metal vein. And the vocals, you can understand what they're saying. The song is about the Bible story of Judas Iscariot and his betrayal of Jesus Christ. But they do it from the point of view where they pose the question, like, was he the villain? Or was he doing something that was necessary to carry out a divine plan? So I like that aspect of it. I thought that was interesting. I'm interested in these lyrical themes. So I'm usually not a fan of like the anti-Christian stuff, but I like this given that it's like history and biblical stories. So the next song, it's called Rat Kingdom. I thought it had more of a black metal sound as opposed to the melodic death metal of the first track. It's not too bad if you're somebody who likes more of a traditional black metal sound. After this is The Hanged Man, and it's interesting because this one had some guitar riffs that sounded a little bit like thrash metal. So I know how this band likes to experiment a little. There's a short instrumental called Black Heart with some orchestration and some big church bells, and gives the listener a break from all that like heavy music. Then the next song, Asmodeus, brings back more of that traditional black metal sound. The song was not too bad. It was actually a little melodic at times. They bring back a little bit of the melodic side with the song Kashmir Princess. And I like the song because I like the melodic guitar playing on it. But then they bring back some of that extreme black metal with the song Hubris, Anorexia, which has the dark guitar playing and the aggressive vocals and rapid fire drum beats. Next song has more of an epic metal with a historical atmosphere, and the song is called The Eye of Providence, which is one of the slower tracks. There are three more tracks in the album, and then the next song is called Hailing Death. This one reminded me more of the death metal type of song with black metal vocals, and this one has a big sing-alongable chorus. The second to last song is called Broken Bloodlines, another very heavy black metal style song, and the end with a song called War Machine, which has a lot of death metal elements with stop-start guitar riffs. Overall, it's not too bad. I like the epic nature of the songs. I probably like the slower, more melodic songs better than the ones that sounded more like traditional black metal, but I think I can get into this. I thought the concept of the album was interesting because they're talking about Bible stories, and that's something that interests me. So I'm going to give this one another 8 out of 10. I don't know how it compares to the other albums, but let me know in the comments. I think it's something I may listen to again. Next, I have the solo album by Jordan Rudess called Permission to Fly. It's his first solo album since Wired for Madness, which came out in 2019. This album, Permission to Fly, was released on September 6th, 2024 through Inside Out Music. And if you didn't know, Jordan Rudess is the keyboardist of Dream Theater. This is a progressive rock or progressive metal album. There are different songs. Some songs are heavier, some are softer. The music is very personal, it's very emotional. The opening track is called The Final Threshold, and as you would expect, the keyboards are in the forefront. Sound a lot like the progressive rock of the 70s. The music was complex with lots of time signature changes. I thought the music was reminiscent of bands like Yes or King Crimson. Then the next track was one of the more epic ones, and that was called Into the Lair. This one had more of a dreamy atmosphere and was one of the longer tracks at close to 10 minutes. The song is filled with complex keyboard arrangements, and the song takes different twists and turns, also has some melodic vocals. The vocals on this album are provided by Joe Payne, who is known for his previous work with the band The Enid, and there was a song called Haunted Reverie, which was a little strange, had some weird computer noises in the intro, but the song was one of the softer ballads on the album. And then this followed another one of the epics in the album called The Alchemist, which is a prog rock epic, clocks in at close to 9 minutes. Then there is some softer piano playing on this song, and just more keyboards and a darker tone. And it goes into a song called Eternal, which is one of the longer epics and has lots of progressive rock influences. And then there's a song called Footstep in the Snow, which is another one of those softer ballads. And then the last song, Dreamer, it's a very big and epic and theatrical type of song. And it kind of has like this climactic feel. And the song is an instrumental, mostly soft orchestration. So for me, I like the album. I thought it was a chill album. There were a lot of ballads. I probably would have preferred some heavier stuff, but I guess that's what he's going for. My score is a 7.5 out of 10. I think if you're a fan of progressive rock, if you like Dream Theater, but like the softer side, you probably like this. But that's my score for now. Maybe it will go up after I spend some more time with it, because with these types of albums, sometimes you need to just let them digest and spend time with them. But let's see what happens. Next, I have the band God is an Astronaut, and the album is Embers. This is their 11th studio album. They're an instrumental post-rock band, and the album had 9 songs. The music is very intricate and dynamic. The thing that makes the band unique is their ability to show emotions without using vocals. The album has guest appearances from cellist Joe Quayle and other instrumentals as well. The band produced the album themselves. The opening track, Apparition, has more of a happy tone with some soft orchestration in the background, lots of different layers of sound and some Middle Eastern vibes. They followed up with Falling Leaves, which sounds like some soft ambient music at first, but then it's contrasted with some more intense musical passages. These have big layers of sound, and they add some more like alternative rock guitars and drum beat. Then there's a song Odyssey, which has some softer guitar sounds in the intro and progresses into some spacier tones and dreamy atmospheres. There was a song called Roots, which has softer guitar melodies and some post-punk or new wave influences. And that song has a cinematic feel with some piano parts and dreamy melodies. This goes into the 10-minute epic title track, which a song that critics said was the microcosm of the entire album, because it filled with lots of intense instrumental passages and some psychedelic moments and alternative rock passages as well. After that, the song Realms with the aforementioned cellist Joe Quayle, and the song has some beautiful sound structures. And it goes into a song called Oscillation, and this one has more of that whirlwind alternative sound with brighter tones and a faster beat. I thought it was pretty good and had some darker tones. There was another song with Joe Quayle called Prism. This one had more of a dreamy sound with some suspenseful undertones. It sounded like the type of music that could be used in a suspenseful thriller or horror movie during a dramatic scene. The album ends with Hourglass, and this track has some soft ambient sounds in the intro and maintains that relaxing tone throughout the song's runtime. So in conclusion, it's one of those albums that you have to be in the mood for unless you like that kind of music. I think for me, it's the kind of album that I may listen to from time to time, but it's not something I'm going back to. I think it might be something that's good to listen to while I'm working on a computer because it won't be distracting, but otherwise it might be something I need to like grow on me. For now, my score is a 7 out of 10. Type of music you have to be in the mood for, or at least that's my opinion of it. The next album I have is from the band Wolfheart, and then the album is called Draconian Darkness. They are a Finnish melodic death metal band. This is their seventh full-length album, released on Raining Phoenix Music. The band has a unique sound. They have two vocalists. One does the death metal style vocals, and the other person does the clean vocals. The album features some orchestrations and songs that can be dramatic and theatrical. There are lots of guitar riffs in addition to symphonic elements. The album maintains a tone that can be dark and gloomy and cold, just like the winters in Finland. The opening track is called Ancient Cold, and this sounds like some epic Viking music at first, but you can hear some orchestration and some of the heavy guitar riffs. When the song takes off, it sounds more like traditional melodic death metal, but the orchestral elements give it another layer of sound. The next song is called Evenfall. This one is very fast and heavy with some intense guitar riffs, but it's contrasted by some folkier sounds and softer melodies. Then there's the song Burning Sky, which has some acoustic guitars in the intro, some softer folk sounding melodies. But like most of the other songs, it gets very intense with some traditional sounding melodic death metal vocals, as well as some orchestration to accompany it. Then there's a song Death Leads the Way, which has more of an epic sound and some complex guitar playing. The next song was called Skyin of the Flame. This one had big and epic sounds with tremolo pick guitar riffs and some softer acoustic guitars and clean singing. Then a song called Grave, which has some haunting pianos in the intro and gives you the impression it's going to be a soft song, but it's not. It's actually one of the most intense songs with lots of speed and aggression. Then there's a song Throne of Bones with some complex guitar riffs that give the song almost that progressive rock feel. Thought it was a good one. I like the orchestration that accompanied it. There are two songs left. The penultimate song, Trial by Fire, is another song that's very intense and heavy. And the closing track was called The Gale, which has some acoustic guitars in the intro and softer melodies. But like the rest of the songs, it picks up with some speed and some fast tremolo pick guitar riffs. Overall, I like the album. I think it might be my favorite of the week because they remind me of the band Insomnium, and I like the style of music. And I think what sets this band apart from the others is they use a lot of heavy and light sections in the songs and gives the album lots of peaks and valleys. And there's also the orchestral aspect, which makes them stand out. I'm going to give this album an 8.5 out of 10. Like I said, probably my favorite or even the best album of the week. So I only have one more album to talk about, so let's get into it. So my last album review before I wrap this up is called, the band is called Castle, and the album is called Evil Remains, and this is classic doom metal. This is their sixth album, the first album in 6 years. There's two people in the band. There's one female who does vocals and another guy. And their influences are bands like The Obsessed or Pentagram or other similar bands. I think the album really caught my eye because I like the album cover, which is why I chose to listen to it and review it. The opening track is called Queen of Death. It's filled with some dark and heavy guitar riffs and a dark and sinister tone. They have a song called Nosferatu Nights, which begins with some clean guitars, but the song picks up the pace with dark and heavy rhythms. And the song Deja Voodoo, which is a really cool song title. And this has a cool bass guitar intro, softer haunting vocals, and has big riffs. And then the song The Evil Remains, a very Black Sabbath sounding guitar riff with powerful rhythms. And then the song Black Spell, which is a more of an energetic song with a little bit more speed and some heavier rhythms. And then the song 100 Eyes, which was a single, which I played a clip of in the beginning. More traditional heavy metal, but had that dark and sinister atmosphere as of the rest of the album. The penultimate song is called She. This one has some more complex guitar riffs and more of a dark and evil sound. And the last song, Cold Grave, showcases their typical doom and metal sound with lyrics telling a story about something dark or evil or something of that nature. And I like that song because of the melodic leads. But overall, not too bad. It's a good band to check out if you're into those retro heavy metal bands with those dark horror movie themes. The band is not too bad. I don't have much more to say about them. My score is going to be a 7 out of 10 as well. It's decent. I'll be going back to it now and then. And that is all. So check out last week's episode of New Metal Releases. I'll stick that right there. Thanks for watching. Please give this video a like. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you have not already. I do rock and metal reviews. I do rankings and classic album reviews. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.